And the other good news, one other good news is the theme is Krishna in Braja. We've kind of gotten attached to Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, but he is going to speak about something he has published 2 books about, because he's very educated personality. He's a professor. Just came back from it anyway, without a long story. Mysteries. Some of the he's going to speak something about. He wrote a book about Rasa Leela. So we had a nice discussion of a year ago, 6 months ago, and now again. It's not going to get too esoteric, so everyone's going to go off dancing in rasa dance or something. But because he knows the audience, and so it'll be very nice. He's very educated, very eloquent, very elegant speaker, very charming, has a nice big beard, gray hair, like sadhu. He's a wonderful person. Wonderful person. Gitanagari retreat. And another good news is what we're going to be speaking about has 4 parts. This killing of the demon Aghasura, part 1, and there's 4 parts. And each of the 4 parts has a certain flavor to it. A point of emphasis, and I think you're going to like it. I hope you're going to like it. I'm sure you're going to like it. And the history, or the chronology of the Bhagavatam is chapter 12, 13, and 14. They go together because at the end of chapter 12 comes chapter 13. And at the beginning of chapter 13, after killing Aghasura, the cowherd boys do what they do after Krishna kills a demon. Time for lunch. So they're sitting together having lunch with Krishna, talking about what Krishna just did, and the excitement and everything. And then comes the stealing of the calves and the cowherd boys. That's chapter 13. And then Brahma realizes he made a big boo-boo. So chapter 14 is he comes and offers prayers. Very beautiful section of the Bhagavatam. Many lessons and lessons within the lessons. And I think you're going to like it. I'm going to like it. I think you're going to like it. There's many nice things. One of the nice things is when the cowherd boys enter the mouth of the Aghasura demon, Krishna doesn't want them, Bhagavan doesn't want them to enter the mouth of Aghasura, and they enter the mouth of Aghasura. Then there's lengthy discussion about rasa. But why does he who's Satya Sankalpa Shakti is never violated, appears to have been violated? Like they went to sleep or something, as Shaktis took a vacation or something. So how did that happen? So it's a very nice discussion. It's a very nice discussion. Super nice discussion. And it's all about rasa. And the essence of the rasa is if you read the Bhagavatam and you hear Krishna's pastimes with the ear, not just for the flow and the this happened, then that happened, and then surprise, and then something else happened. And besides the flow, there's very profound teachings about Krishna's loving dealings with his devotees, which is the main reason why Krishna appears. And if you listen carefully, as you listen carefully, you'll start to appreciate more and more and more of the rasic nature of Krishna's loving exchanges with his devotees. Because that's who he is and that's what he does. And then there's secondary and tertiary things that he does. Shanti. Okay. So off we go. Part 1. There's different names of Krishna based upon this Aghasura pastime. There's unlimited names. There's Vishnu Sahasranam, but there's actually unlimited names. Here's some of those names found from scripture. Agha Vividsaha, the enemy of the Agha demon. There's the scriptural source for it. Agha Ripoho, Krishna, the enemy of Agha. So he's appreciated this way. This is Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. Krishna Das Kaviraj, everyone's being attentive here. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, he is the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he is certainly very knowledgeable about Krishna, along with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he has written this book, this stava, Sri Shukas Sari, Shuka Sari Stava. You know what that means. Shuka is the parrot. So anyway, glorification, singing the glories of Krishna, and one of the glories is he's the killer of the Agha demon. Agharehe. This is from another reference, and same book, and from Namastaka. This is Rupa Goswami, one of the names, the destroyer of Aghasura, Aghadamana, and Aghabit, destroyer of sin, which means is the killer of Aghasura. So, as you may remember, I'll remind you in case you forgot. Rupa Goswami wrote many books. And one of his principal books is the teachings on Bhakti Rasa, namely Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. And after he wrote Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu, which is a description of Krishna is rasa, and when Krishna, so once again, when Krishna appears in this world, when rasa personified, rasa vaisaha, from the Upanishads, Taittiriya Upanishad, when rasa personified appears, what happens is rasa. And bhakti rasa is the exchange between the bhakta and the source of all rasa. Bhakti rasa, source, that's the personality of Godhead. Krishna. Then he wrote a second book, which was like the graduate study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, called Ujjwala Nilamani. Ujjwala Nilamani. It's like very esoteric, very elevated topic. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, when he was 16, he wrote the Tika, or the commentary. I like describing these great personalities because they're really awesome. They from the earliest stages of, Yesterday we were observing the disappearance day of Jiva Goswami. And from his childhood, these personalities we have some children here. In their childhood, that's all they knew. That's all they did their whole life. What to speak of when they became Sanskrit scholars and knew how to write about the person they loved so much in very elegant language. Anyway, Ujjvala Nilamani Tika. Here's a verse directly from towards the conclusion of this section. This is chapter 12, then 13. Brahma steals the calves and cowherd boys. Then Brahma comes to offer prayers. This is one of Brahma's prayers. And at the end of his prayers, Shukadev Goswami says, any person who hears or chants these pastimes of Lord Murari, performed with his cowherd friends, the killing of Aghasura, the taking of lunch in the forest grass, the Lord's manifestation of transcendental forms, the wonderful prayers offered by Lord Brahma, is sure to achieve all his spiritual desires. Now, it doesn't say about removing material desires, but you're not going to achieve spiritual desires unless the other is also addressed. Material desires removed. So it's like the clouds block the sun. When the clouds are removed, when it's clear sky, brilliance of the sun. So just doing what we're doing right now, it will help each of us, according to our position, each of us fulfill all spiritual desires. So I'm sure you'll be very attentive. These descriptions of Lord Krishna's pastime to his cowherd boys, his eating with them on the bank of the Yamuna, and Lord Brahma's prayers unto him, are all transcendental subject matters. Anyone who hears, recites, or chants them surely gets all his spiritual desires fulfilled. I hope you have some nice spiritual desires. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have some spiritual desires. Now here's a nice verse, again, Rupa Goswami, and it has long meter, so I requested Jyotirmaya to make a recording. So you see that little amplifier thing? It's embedded into the presentation. She's going to sing, listen to her sing, and then she's going to sing this first line the second time. And if you like, you can sing the first line the second time, and so forth. It's very intricate meter. Here we go.
Prachinanam bhajanam atulam dushkaram shringato me.
Then she'll say again. Prachinanam bhajanam atulam dushkaram shringato me.
Naivyasena jvalati hridayam bhakti lesalasasya. Naivyasena jvalati hridayam
Bhakti leshalisya
Vishwadrichim agahara tava karnya karunya vichim. Vishwadrichim agahara tava karnya karunya vichim. Asha bindukshitam idam upetyantare hanta saityam.
Asha bindukshitam idam upetyantare hanta saityam. Rupa Goswami writes, I am very weak and lazy to do even the smallest devotional service. And so, when I hear of the peerless and difficult to perform services performed by the great devotees in ancient times, my heart burns with despair. O Lord, O killer of Aghasura, when I hear that your waves of mercy splash everyone from the demigod Brahma down to the most insignificant creature, then my heart becomes sprinkled with a cooling drop of hope. Very sweet. And another Stavamala, that was Rupa Goswami's. Stavamala is a popular title. It's his collection of stavas or prayers. And here's Raghunath Das Goswami's prayer. I'll just read the English. May very dear and fragrant Radhakund, were Krishna the enemy of Agha, yearning to attain the merciful sidelong glance of Radha, eagerly and diligently bathes and renders service, be my shelter. So now we're ready to begin the chapter. So chapter 12 of Canto 10, verse 1, Shukadeva Goswami speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. One day, all good stories start like that. Once upon a time, Krishna decided to take his breakfast as a picnic in the forest. Having risen early in the morning, he blew his bugle made of horn and woke all the cowherd boys and calves with its beautiful sound. Then Krishna and the boys, keeping their respective groups of calves before them, proceeded from Vrajabhumi to the forest. So there's lots of commentary. We'll hear the commentary as we go forward. So Kvachit one day, Krishna went out desiring to take a meal in the forest. This is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Only Krishna's name is mentioned, indicating that Rohini by force kept Balaram at home in order to bathe him and perform auspicious rites on his birthday. So now you know, Balaram Jayanti and the day that this Aghasura demon was killed are the same day. But Balaram wasn't there. There's a good reason that Balaram wasn't there. It would have spoiled the Leela. So it was a good day, Krishna's Balaram's birthday. Again, this is more commentary, different acharya. One time waking up very early in the morning, the brother of Balaram, the sole protector of the universe, developed a desire by chance. Today, we should have our morning meal in the forest. So the reference here is Gopal Champu. Shh. Ladies, shh. Thank you very much. Gopal Champu, those that you're not familiar, Gopal Champu is one of Jiva Goswami's commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam. It's written, as you see on the left side and the right side, two brothers, Snigdhakanta, Madhukanta, and one is playing the role of the one asking questions, and the other is playing the role of the one who's answering his question. What's a champu? Well, if you want to know what a champu is, you can read a book written by Jiva Goswami that explains what a champu is. It's a certain type of literature that has certain rules. He wrote a book about what a champu is, and then he wrote 3 champus. That's the kind of scholar Jiva Goswami was, whose disappearance day we honored yesterday. So finishing his morning duties, he asked his mother to allow this. Let's go have lunch. Breakfast, because normally it was breakfast with mom. And this is breakfast in the forest. So he asked permission from his mother. Pleasing his mother by his actions, he went out with her permission, and with the sound of his buffalo horn, woke up his friends and Balaram, except Balaram couldn't go. Going quickly and sitting at the crossroads, waiting for his friends, for a few moments he looked around. Jiva Goswami comments, though Balaram desired to go, on hearing the sound of the horn, and had heard of the plans from Krishna, his mother made him perform ceremonies for safety at home on the instructions of astrologers. Birthday. This was the main reason for him not being present there. I mean, that was the external reason. The internal reason was, I said, it would have spoiled the pastime. The servant related the message spoken by Balaram. Oh, my brother Krishna, though I want to play with you, something has suddenly come up to prevent me. My maternal uncle, you got to pay heed to the traffic cops. This is her house. Okay. My maternal uncle of the Puru dynasty has come to see me on some surprise business. He remains here, fixed like a tree in the room. This is the different explanation. I know that you got up early with a special desire. Please fulfill your desire for pastimes. If some obstacle arises at the beginning of a new activity, it will prevent the action from bearing fruit. If some obstacle arises at the beginning of a new activity, it will prevent the action from bearing fruit. You ever have obstacles? No. So Balaram doesn't want to be the obstacle. He wants Krishna to have pastimes that bear fruit. And surely it did. Now, what is all this? We're going to hear several things about Krishna's Leela Shakti. What's Krishna's Leela Shakti? Krishna's Leela Shakti is his personal potency for pastimes. We discussed this, but we'll say it again. Krishna does nothing. It's right in Bhagavad Gita. He does nothing, but his potencies do everything. So he has, it worked like this. This is described specifically in the pastime of Mother Yasoda wanting to bind Krishna. Mother Yasoda, being Mother Yasoda, she wanted to bind Krishna, but Krishna didn't want to be bound. So she couldn't bind Krishna. So she had a desire, and he had a desire. But her desire eventually won because she's his mother. But she wanted to bind him, to discipline him. And in opposition was Krishna's desire potency, Ichha Shakti. So it goes like that. There's a hierarchy. Krishna desires, but he doesn't do anything. He didn't say anything. He's a little boy. But he just desired. And then what happened? Satya Sankalpa Shakti. We'll hear about this. Those of you are going to be with us for this duration. Satya Sankalpa Shakti. Satya means truth. Sankalpa means he has an intention. Satya Sankalpa Shakti follows is Ichha Shakti. And then following the Satya Sankalpa Shakti, there's a hierarchy. Leela Shakti makes all kinds of arrangements. So in this case, The influence of the Leela Shakti to produce Balaram's absence was secondary, since Krishna's main reason, he wanted to go have this Icha Shakti was most important. He wanted to go have a picnic, breakfast in the park or in the forest. Whereas the killing of Aghasura and Brahma's bewilderment was incidental. That's the bewilderment of Brahma comes in 2 chapters later. But Krishna's Icha Shakti is primary. So Balaram's absence, secondary. Killing of Aghasura, secondary. Brahma's bewilderment, secondary. Krishna's enjoying. But when with one thing, this is one of the qualities of Krishna that we learned from Rupa Goswami. With one thing, he accomplishes many things. He's expert. He's not in modern society, there's a ring back. Can you fix the ring back? In modern society, multi-processing, or what do they call it? Multitasking, that's like good. Krishna isn't a multitasker person. He just desires to go for a picnic. Everything else happens. Secondary. By his own Shakti. And he isn't even going for a picnic. What's the going for a picnic? It's a pastime. He doesn't have to do anything. And by his potencies, with his mother's permission, he's going for a picnic. This was the first time Krishna desired to do this, eating breakfast in the forest. Previously, it was mentioned that he took breakfast at home, and then he went to the forest. That's the pattern. In this verse, it says, one day he desired to eat in the forest. After taking off his night clothing, washing his face, and dressing in attractive clothing, he quickly rose to his feet, left the house, and woke up the other boys. So later, the photograph or the painting that you see on the left side, this is what happens in chapter 14, or toward the end of chapter 13, the beginning of 14. Krishna's there, the cowherd boys are there, they're having their lunch, because they already had breakfast. They're having their lunch, and after killing Aghasura, which comes later, and Brahma came along and kidnapped the calves and the cowherd boys. Bad. Messing around with Krishna's pastimes, bad. So that's the painting. What so Krishna did was he manifested identical forms of the calves and cowherd boys. You know the story? Some of you may not know the story. We'll fast forward a bit. The end of this chapter, these 4-part sessions are going to be Krishna kills Aghasura demon. And after Krishna killed the Aghasura demon, they went to have lunch. When they went to have lunch, Brahma saw the whole thing from his swan carrier. And he was like amazed. How powerful is Krishna? I wonder, what is the extent of his power? And so he decided he would examine the extent of his power in a tricky way. He kidnapped all the calves. But calves because they're not cows yet, because he's still little Krishna, little boy. 4.5, 5 years old, little boy. They're not big enough to herd the cows. So they're with the calves. He stole the calves. And when the calves were missing, the boys said, hey, wait a minute. We're having our lunch, but where's the calves? And Krishna said, don't worry, I'll find the calves. You finish your lunch. I'll be right back. When Krishna was gone, Brahma came and kidnapped the cowherd boys and put them in a cave. And then he came back to the scene of the crime. He wanted to see what's Krishna going to do. Is he going to cry? Boo-hoo. What's he going to do? And when he came back, he saw the calves and cowherd boys. So what? So he went, they were in the cave, but there's all the calves and the cowherd boys having lunch. And then this is the picture, the painting. For each one of the cowherd boys and each one of the calves, Krishna manifested a four-armed Narayan form. And we'll get there. Each one of those forms of Narayan, the personified Vedas were swarming around each one of them. And when you hear the number, tomorrow morning we're going to hear the number. Asankyata, too many to count. Tens of thousands of cows and cowherd boys in a little space. We'll hear about it. And each one manifested a four-armed Narayan form with the personified Vedas, singing the glories of the personality of Godhead. Big cacophony of sound. Brahma held his four heads like, what's going on? And Krishna just smiled. You want to know the extent of my potencies? Voila. So this is Jiva Goswami's commentary. The excellence of Krishna's manifested pastimes in Vrindavan are of many types. Some show excellence of Aishwarya. That's this scene pictured here. Krishna's showing Brahma that he is the Lord of millions of universes and the form of rasa, of eternity knowledge and infinite bliss. Some forms of Krishna show his compassion, like Krishna giving the position of Putana, of a nurse, a mother to Soda in the spiritual world. Very celebrated verse. We discussed this already because there's many people in the audience this evening that weren't with us previously, so I'm a little stuck. This is an important verse. A very, very important verse. Here's some history. I don't know if I'm going to finish this because of the audience this evening. There's some newer people. There's so many nice things to share with you. Shukadev Goswami was the son of Srila Vyasadeva. Shukadev Goswami was realized in the absolute feature of Brahman, still within the womb of his mother. He didn't want to leave the womb of his mother because outside it's all Maya, so he didn't want to leave the womb of his mother, so he stayed in the womb of his mother. Skipping some details, Vyasadeva went to Krishna, help! He went all the way from the Himalayas, Bhadrik Ashram, where he was residing with his wife, all the way to Dwarka to invite Krishna to come. And please reassure my son, in the wife of my mother's womb, in the womb of my wife, that he can come out, that he won't fall and prey to Maya. So Krishna reassured him, so he came. And as he left, clothed by the four directions, now 16 years of age, poor mother carrying a child for 16 years in her womb. What was that like? And he left. So Vyasadeva, being very intelligent, he decided he sent a messenger into the forest, was a hunter, and with a message that he trained him in certain verses of the Bhagavatam. This is one of them. A few verses in the Bhagavatam that Sukadeva could hear, and hearing those verses of the Bhagavatam, he became attracted to hear more. I want to hear more, I want to hear more. He became a personalist from a impersonalist just by hearing these verses. So here's the verse. Aho Bhakiyam Stana Kalakutam. That's how it starts. Oh, evil Putana, who offered her poisonous breast to Krishna to drink with the intention of killing him, attained the position of a nurse. Here's the name of the nurse. Ambika Kalimba. The nurse had a name. in Goloka Vrindavan, in the spiritual sky. Who else is so merciful? I surrender to him. This is Shukadev narrating, it's Uddhava narrating the pastime of Krishna. So sometimes he shows his compassion, sometimes he shows his sweetness. This is making a reference to a previous chapter. This is chapter 12. In chapter 8, it's the babyhood pastime of Krishna. Here's another verse from the same chapter. When Krishna and Balaram, with the strength of their legs, crawled in the muddy places created in Braja by cow dung and cow urines, their crawling resembled the crawling of serpents, and the sound of their ankle bells was very charming. Very much pleased by the sound of other people's ankle bells, they used to follow these people as if going to their mothers. But when they saw that these were other people, they became afraid and returned to the real mothers, Yashoda and Rohini. This is childhood play. So it's the sweetness of his childhood. Sometimes the sweetness of his stealing butter. Stealing is bad. But when Krishna steals butter, he's celebrated. Got a special name for him, Makhanchor. Here's a verse from Padyavali. As child Hari was stealing butter, he noticed his own reflection in a nearby jeweled column. Thinking this to be another boy, he became frightened and begged, "You're my friend. I will share this butter with you. Please don't tell on me. Don't tell on me." May child Hari protect you all. Or more sweetness. Krishna's feeding the monkeys from the same chapter. Canto 10, chapter 8. Here's the verse. Our dear friend Yashoda, this is the elder gopis complaining. Sometimes your son comes to our houses before the milking of the cows and releases the calves. And when the master of the house becomes angry, your son merely smiles. Sometimes he devises some process by which he steals palatable curd, butter, and milk, which he then eats and drinks. When the monkeys assemble, he divides it with them. And when the monkeys have their bellies so full they won't take any more, he breaks the pots. So there's the naughtiness, but in Braja it's the sweetness. They love Krishna so much. They love Krishna so much. When he does naughty things, they say, "Oh, this naughty boy," and they smile. Because he's so lovely. Or more sweetness. Many, many, many other pastimes. Krishna's desiring to take breakfast in the forest. That's this chapter. The first verse of this chapter. So the Brahmin boy behind Krishna's right shoulder, that's Madhu Mangal. And there's other cowherd boys and other cowherd boys. It's the second verse of this chapter. At that time, hundreds and thousands of cowherd boys came out of their respective homes in Brajabhumi and joined Krishna, keeping before them their hundreds and thousands of groups of calves. So that's a lot of number. Let's take a look at some of this number. The boys were very beautiful, and they were equipped with lunch bags, bugles, flutes, and sticks for controlling the calves. So tens of thousands of cowherd boys. How many? Asankhya. Sankhya means to count, and asankhya means too many to count. That's how many. The boys and calves together could not be counted. But how do they all fit into Vrindavan? Vrindavan is 16 kroshas, so 32 miles. This direction and that direction. Vishwanath Chakravarti gives these measurements. How is it possible? Because the Dham, just as Krishna is unlimited, the Dham is unlimited. Even a small portion of the holy Dham is sufficient to accommodate billions of universes, each measuring 50 million miles in diameter. So there. In other words, material yardsticks don't work in the spiritual realm. So it may sound fanciful. Now, why would Shukadeva Goswami and why would Vyasadeva, the author of all the Vedas, come up with fiction? It's not fiction. It's not imagination. It's not exaggeration. It's not any of those things. It's history. But the important point, touch the point, is the spiritual world is unlimited. Literally unlimited. There's no limit. Even a small portion is capable of accommodating billions of universes. In the Rasa Leela, many of you know, there's a very nice scholarly devotee named Hari Parshad. Many of you know him. He spent some time creating like a 4-page PDF, which was to. Did you send it out already, Bangsidari? Sent it out already. Okay. In Dwarka, you all know where is Dwarka. In Dwarka, Ugrasena was the king. Ugrasena was the king. And there's some number of how many quadrillion bodyguards he had. So you'll find that in that PDF. And how do they all fit into Dwarka? Because they have to have accommodation, just even what's a standing. How are you going to fit all those people? What to speak of where they're going to stay? Now, according to the descriptions of the Rasa dance, 1 billion gopis gathered at the place of the Rasa dance. So how's that? Where do all those gopis come from? Where did they live? And in one space, how do they fit into space? In short, there's no, the material yardsticks don't work. Material yardsticks, it doesn't work. They don't fit in Vrindavan, and all those bodyguards don't fit in. So therefore, the explanation is the spiritual realm doesn't have the same limitations that the material realm has. So those of you that are not part of this WhatsApp group, that you didn't receive that document, if you'd like to receive the document, what to do? You see this young man over here that's got all these dials and gadgets in front of him? See him, and he'll see that you get a copy. It's just a shastric, 4-page detailing explanation of how the spiritual world is unlimited with numbers. Okay. Jiva Goswami writes in his commentary on this, there's no question of impediments, obstacles, or limitations because the Lord, his associates, and his holy Dham have inconceivable powers. Inconceivable means the lady of the house is ordering us to move. Move. She's unhappy with us. Time out while everybody moves. You have too many friends, that's the problem. You have too many friends. But those are my friends. My friends plus your friends is too many.
asking me, should I work or can I stop? Can I come? Sure, please come.
You have too many friends. That's the problem.
Right? God praise of you. He's a beauty.
But you have, but Krishna has unlimited potency and we don't. You don't, I don't, but Krishna does. Just see, they can fit billions of people in a little space and we can't do that. I'm going to continue even though there's distraction. Here's the third verse of chapter 12. Along with the cowherd boys and their own groups of calves, Krishna came out with an unlimited number of calves. They all the boys began to sport in the forest in a greatly playful spirit. He holds a string of jewels and counts, of course there's calves. He calls out the names of the leaders of the groups using his flute. He counts the groups using different colored beads. Though the number of cows is unlimited, and calves too, he counts the group leaders, or he shows his skill by counting them all. For the Lord is more intelligent than the most intelligent. Phew. Prabhupada writes in his very simple language, such unlimited numbers are indicated here by the word asankhyatai. Krishna is unlimited, his potency is unlimited, his cows and calves are unlimited, and his space is unlimited. Exclamation point. If we study Krishna's potency with our limited knowledge, that potency will never be possible to understand. Here's a simple soul is awakened to Krishna consciousness and renders service by using his tongue to chant the Lord's holy name and taste the remnants of the Lord's food. The tongue is purified and one gradually comes to understand who Krishna really is. Sevant mukhi jivada, when the tongue is engaged. So now we're going to hear about how the boys play. This is the fun part. Starting with text number 4 of this chapter. Although all these boys were already decorated by their mothers with ornaments of kacha, gunja, pearls, and gold, when they went into the forest, they further decorated themselves with fruits, green leaves, bunches of flowers, peacock feathers, and soft minerals from Gopal Champu. Though the boys were beautiful because of the jewels as they entered the forest, they ornamented their bodies with fruits and buds from the trees and used a multitude of glass beads brought in packets from their houses after much pleading. Absorbed in play, they did not consider that one thing was better than another. Only the misers, thinking of expense, see with a critical eye. The carefree person, like these boys, not considering expense, became joyful with what is pleasing. Text 5. Remember, it's going to be 7 verses of playfulness. All the cowherd boys used to steal one another's lunch bags. when a boy came to understand that his bag had been taken away, the other boys would throw it farther away to a more distant place, and those standing there would throw it still further. When the proprietor of the bag became disappointed, the other boys would laugh. The proprietor would cry. The bag would be returned. Boys will play. They stole each other's sticks, flutes, and lunches. Considering it their own, they would throw them far away, then would bring the item back and offer it. Gopal Champu. They all engage in suitable actions by quick movements of Krishna's eyebrows at every second and knew nothing else. So Krishna would indicate what to do just by raising his eyebrows or looking sideways, and they all knew what that meant, and they were thrilled and they did whatever his eyes said. Krishna has very attractive eyes, yes? Sometimes, next verse, Krishna would go to a somewhat distant place to see the beauty of the forest. Then all the other boys would run to accompany him, each one saying, I shall be first to run and touch Krishna. I shall touch Krishna first. In this way, they enjoyed life by repeatedly touching Krishna. Now the painting that's depicted on the screen here, that's Madhu Mangal. He's the Brahmin fellow on the right side. And Krishna took his lunch bag. They're the best of friends. How could he take his lunch bag? And then Madhu Mangal went running after his lunch bag, and Krishna threw it to Balaram, and Balaram threw it to Sridham, and Sridham threw it to Stoka Krishna. Stoka Krishna. He's here. I saw him here. Stoka Krishna Das, anyways. Okay. Krishna sent the boys ahead to look for the calves, and then went far off to see the beauty of the forest. They could not see him, but they ran towards him, attracted by his fragrance, saying, I will catch him first. Having such pride, they felt great bliss. There was a question asked, can you give some examples of how pride can be utilized in Krishna's service? Here's one. Become a cowherd boy. Oh, Krishna, you disappeared, but I'll find you. And proud of their ability to find Krishna, because although he wasn't in sight, they could smell his fragrance. Though the boys were pure, they displayed pride to give pleasure to Krishna. So attached to Krishna's company were the cowherd little sons that they acted just like his shadow. When he would go, they would go. When he was, and whatever, they followed him like a shadow follows the object that casts a shadow. This is a reference from Brihat Bhagavatamrita, similar description. It's a nice book by Sanatana Goswami. If, even for a moment, they couldn't see him, if he sometimes went away on a whim, they were filled with distress. And when he returned, they would rejoice and rush to touch him. So this is a nice painting showing some of their games. One boy is covering Krishna's eyes, but he doesn't need his eyes to see. He can see with his finger. Or any angani yasya sakalendriya vrittimanti. Any one of the senses of the personality of Godhead acts equally with any one of the other senses. Sometimes they were imitating the movements of the peacocks. You see one boy hiding behind a tree. They're just doing one climbing up a tree. You don't see me. I'm up in the tree. You don't see me. Just like child play. And Krishna was the gang leader. So this is part of that same series. All the boys would be differently engaged. Some blew their flutes. Others blew bugles made of horn. Some imitated the buzzing of the bumblebees, and others imitated the voice of the cuckoo. Some boys imitated flying birds. That was depicted in this painting. You know, the peacock stretching, displaying his feathers in the back. Or on the far left, it's a bird about to take flight, and Krishna's a frog about to jump. And just playing. They're herding calves. Countless number of calves, but the calves just tag along. They weren't herding the calves, they were playing. The calves were attached to Krishna, so wherever Krishna went, that's where they went. That's how they herded the calves. Some boys imitated flying birds by running after the birds' shadows on the ground. Some imitated the beautiful movements and attractive postures of the swans. Some sat down with the ducks, sitting silently, and others imitated the dancing of the peacocks. Nice painting. Some boys attracted young monkeys in the trees. Some jumped into the trees, imitating the monkeys. Some made faces, as the monkeys were accustomed to do, and others jumped from one branch to another. Playful children. Some boys went to the waterfalls and crossed over the river, jumping with the frogs. And when they saw their own reflections on the water, they would laugh. They would also condemn the sound of their own echoes. So, like this, you get the idea. This is setting the scene for the Aghasura demon to show up. And like, what's that? They were afraid because they're playful. In this way, all the cowherd boys used to play with Krishna, who is the source of Brahman effulgence for Gyanis, desiring to merge into that effulgence, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead for the devotees who had accepted eternal servitorship, and for ordinary persons, he is but another ordinary child. It's a different perceptions of the same object, Krishna himself. Guess what? That's the end. Boo. But it's 7:30. We've gone for 1 hour. The tomorrow morning session, late morning, we're going to hear a very detailed description of how fortunate are these cowherd boys. As Shukadeva Goswami is narrating to Maharaj Parikshit, and as he's narrating, it's so sweet and so exceptional. He's the personality of Godhead, and they're playing with him like little boys play with other little boys. Very playful. And Krishna's as playful as they were. He's more playful. And how amazing. In other words, here's the teaching. There's the majesty or the Aishvarya of the Supreme, Lord God Almighty. And he's almighty. And the almightiness is with him always because that's who he is. And from him, his almightiness, comes expansions, the whole cosmic manifestation, expansions of himself, expansions of living entities. His potencies expand without limit because he's without limit. And of those, some persons honor the majesty of God, the Aishvarya feature of God. And remember, singing from our hymnal, Lord God Almighty, merciful, and so, it's good to acknowledge the almightiness of the Supreme. And there's some persons in Vrindavan, who the sweetness of Krishna, the madhurya of Krishna, eclipses or covers the Aishwarya feature of Krishna. So they don't even take notice of they see it, they're not dull, they see his majesty, but they reach some other conclusion than it's his majesty, something else. Sometimes they guess, maybe this, maybe that, but the sweetness is so strong, they forget that questioning, and it's just sweetness. And the cowherd boys, it's just sweetness all the way. So how the statement in the Bhagavatam is, how fortunate are these cowherd boys? That's what we're going to be speaking about tomorrow. How fortunate. They don't pay attention to the majesty, the Aishwarya feature of the Supreme. They pay attention to the sweetness. And they're so expert in engaging in loving activities. And they love him very much, and he loves them very much. So we're going to hear tomorrow afternoon how much Krishna loves the cowherd boys. Even when he wants something they don't want, they prevail because they want. You with me? It's very similar, different, but very similar. Shh. Very similar, but different from Mother Yashoda trying to bind Krishna. She wanted to bind Krishna. I was just started to describe. Satya Sankalpa Shakti, forget it. You can't bind me. I don't want to be bound. That's it. She couldn't bind him. So she's smart. She got more ropes, and it still was 2 fingers too short. She got more ropes. 150 feet of ropes. It wouldn't go around his waist. What's going on? But she kept trying. Because sometimes we try to do something and in service to Krishna, and somehow it doesn't happen. So we keep trying and keep trying. When Krishna saw perspiration coming down the side of her face and the flowers falling from her hair, and she was shaking, he withdrew his own potency and exhibited his kripa shakti, his mercy potency. And in this way, she was able to bind Krishna, not with rope, but with love. And similarly, we're going to hear not only Mother Yashoda's in this special club, the cowherd boys too. The cowherd boys love Krishna, Krishna loves the cowherd boys, and he doesn't want something for their own welfare, but they want something for their playfulness, because that's their mood. And it happens. They entered the mouth of Aghasura. Even Krishna didn't want it. It's a very nice discussion. That's tomorrow afternoon. And tomorrow morning is going to be, how fortunate are these cowherd boys? So embedded within the pastimes are very attractive. Embedded within the pastimes are truths about Krishna and the merciful nature of Krishna towards those who love him, and how important their love for him is in enjoying rasa. He is rasa, according to the Upanishads. Raso vai saha. Saha is a pronoun. That, or it. Saha. And vai means certainly, and he certainly is rasa. He is rasa. So there's no limit to his capacity to enjoy, and yet sometimes his own desire is superseded by the desire of his devotees. That's arranged by his Leela Shakti. His devotees' desire supersedes his desires, and he likes it. And that's Krishna. Krishna in Braja. Because of the sweetness of their loving exchanges with him. It's a mystery, and it's an important lesson. And if people read the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, and don't have proper guidance, they'll get the wrong idea. It's mythology, or it's a story meant to tell some lessons of life. This means that. That means something else. Or, jugglery. So it's rasa. Krishna's exchanging loving dealings with his friends. And with the elders, the gopas and gopis, the elders in the Vrindavan. Each just churning, stimulating their ecstatic love for him in so many different ways. Okay, so that's our discussion for this evening. And I hope our hostess is happy now. Almost happy. So let's see if there's some discussion. Shri Ballabha.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I had a question, Maharaj, but you just made a statement which kind of answered that. I just wanted to make sure that my understanding is right. The question I had was, if you could please expand on why, not why, but the statement was about Krishna's intention was really to have a picnic with his friends.
That's it.
And it was not really about Aghasura.
There's secondary.
And your statement just now was about how his desires are overcome. He gives in to the desires of his devotees.
Yeah.
So is that the reason why, the primary reason why?
Yeah. I mean, they love Krishna. I mean, we heard the descriptions. He would disappear and they would follow him even just by his fragrance. They would just follow him like a shadow follows the object that's casting the shadow. And so he knows them, they know him. They want to have a picnic with Krishna, so instead of having breakfast with his mother, he goes to just to be with them. And what do they do together? They play and steal each other's lunch bags, play. He's fulfilling their desire. He's reciprocating with their desire. That's what Krishna does. Particularly his pure devotee associates. That's what Krishna does. Okay.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for giving us this series of lectures and pastimes. They are very wonderful. I was thinking, now Krishna, we know of his name, form, qualities, pastimes, all of these. And we are hearing all these pastimes, very sweet. I was curious, out of all these, whatever Acharya says, which is more sweeter than each other, like his names or his forms or his pastimes. Any comments on it?
You want to know which is more important?
More sweeter.
More sweeter. That's not good grammar, but that's okay. I mean, the answer to that question is the absolute nature of Krishna is this is equal to that, is equal to that, is equal to that, is equal to that. And you want to know which is more sweet than this or that or the other. And they're all equally sweet. Now, the difference may be how we can access that sweetness. The access to the sweetness of Krishna Tattva, the truths about Krishna, the access is in this age, particularly through his name. But, there's a big but. The big but is, according to one of our acharyas, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when emphasis is given to the name, it is implied, there's Sanskrit term is upalakshana, And the English word is metonymy or metomony. That is something, one thing is stating everything else that's part of a set. So rather than saying this and then the other parts of the set every time, one thing is said and it implies the other things that are part of the set. It's a Sanskrit rule, and the rule of logic and rule of composition. So while giving emphasis, back to your question, while giving emphasis to the name, it implies, or implicit is, his qualities, his form, his pastimes. Now certainly when hearing his pastimes, we're hearing his name again and again. And so unpack his name and there's his pastimes. Look at that. And there's his loving relationships. And they're all inclusive. So this implies the other things. It's implicit. Mahaprasadam is especially nice. We all like prasadam, and Mahaprasadam is especially nice. Okay?
A second part question.
Second part.
Yes. So I've read somewhere that unless one realizes Lord's name, Lord doesn't reveal his form, or unless one realizes his form, the next is qualities, and then the pastimes, and
The language that you're using is not precise.
realized.
Within the name is everything. To realize the form, which is within the name, it's implicit. To realize the name, then the form becomes revealed, the qualities, the pastimes become revealed. What happens when you're distracted? None of that. That's what happens. The distracted happens. That's what happens. So if one becomes focused on the object of love, then the qualities of the loving person, the activities of that person, the form of that person, etc., become full through the sound. So that's how we are trained. The primary emphasis goes to sound, and the sound of his name. And then with the sound of his name comes all these other things. Okay? Is there anyone else who wants to? Here we go in the back.
Hi, Krishna Guru Maharaj. So in one of the slide, Krishna was sharing butter with the monkeys. That reminds me of Vrindavan Yatra, which she took us in 2022. I've noticed that the monkeys in Vrindavan are really naughty. They were stealing. They were stealing everything. They were stealing our all articles. But the monkeys in Govardhan, while we were doing parikrama, they were very decent. So does it? I mean, they were not stealing anything. They were like, if we give some bananas, then they'll nicely come and then they'll take. But the monkeys in Vrindavan are like, they just grab our specs and then they ask for some food, and they don't give unless we give something to them. So does it relate to some of them? I mean, did they take any lineage? I mean, like, does it relate to because?
What's your question?
So
what's the reason for the city kids being different than the country kids?
Yes, because Krishna was naughty in Vrindavan. That's why.
No, there's different reasons. One of the reasons is stealing specs is those persons who are opticians trained the monkeys to steal specs. So they jump on your head, and you're like freaked out because they jump on your head and they grab if you have. So it's advised when you walk through Vrindavan town, don't wear glasses, because they'll steal your glasses, and they're trained to do that. You know, they're thieves. They're thieves because they're trained to be thieves, and they get rewarded for it. And, the modes of nature also is another factor. The urban and outside of the urban, the different modes of nature, even for people and for monkeys. Okay? Anything else? Yes, up front. Oh, you have something. I'm sorry. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was wondering if there could be, are there any differences in opinions in any of the bona fide acharyas that we have?
Of course. Sure. Are there differences? Why not? You want some examples?
Yeah.
A classic example is right from Bhagavad Gita. You want me to go to this? Okay, I'm sorry. There's a lot of noise coming from over here. We're having a nice party. An old folks party. Shh. Okay. It's a detail, but the detail is a detail of a principle. And the detail, we just came across some of it here. Like, what day was it? From Gopal Champu, they said one thing, and the verse says another something, and then the commentary says a third something. Why Balaram couldn't come. There's a little example. And sometimes it depends on the circumstance. Sometimes it has to do with different days of Brahma. The pastimes of Krishna happen each day of Brahma, and there's variegatedness in each day of Brahma pastimes, and sometimes the differences have to do with that. So that's not so clear in this case. Here's the Bhagavad Gita example. In the Bhagavad Gita example, Sanjaya, chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita, is describing to Dhritarashtra the array of the armies. And there's a certain word that says, the number was enormous. And the correct, an additional correct explanation is they're insufficient. So one of our acharyas, Baladev, these are the guru and his disciple. The Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's explanation of that particular word is one way, and the Baladev, his disciple and student, is just the opposite. It's insufficient number, unlimited and insufficient. Just from Bhagavad Gita, it's not different days of Brahma, just Sanskrit rules. So supposing somebody looks at, we did this already. Supposing somebody looks at a 9 on the floor, and they're looking at this side and it's a 6, looking at that side it's a 9. It's the same object from different perspective. So as they see this, or they see its opposite. So who's right? Is it a 6 or is it a 9? Or is it insufficient or more than sufficient? So there's differences from different realizations or different perspectives on the same thing. And does it happen? Yes, it happens. So what are we to do? You and I, what are we to do when we see something like that? That's the next question.
I was thinking about it.
Yeah, I knew you were. We look at the person, the authority that's giving this statement or their rendering of a Sanskrit text, and look at the person, and is the person of the caliber that they're always in alignment with disciplic succession, always in alignment with disciplic succession. And their statement that reads over here and another one reads over there and the same standard is there, it's just a different perspective, as opposed to, no, that's not the case. So what do you do? What do you and I do? We look at the alignment of that individual with disciplic succession, their fidelity to the message of disciplic succession, and if they have a particular rendering, that's their perspective, and that's fine. Now, supposing you don't have somebody like that, somebody that's a scholar or whatever, they don't have that credential, and when they make renderings in that manner, it doesn't carry the same weight. Disciplic succession is everything. And fidelity to that disciplic succession is everything. And some will have this emphasis, and some will have that emphasis, or this perspective, that perspective, this realization, that realization. That's just fine. We're managing to accommodate everybody very well. I think we should call it quits. So, there's something supposed to happen this evening, right? You want to let us know, Gopal Hari? Give him the microphone. We'll give you the good microphone. We can trade in the old one.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, okay.
So first of all, we would really like to thank Maharaj for such a beautiful katha of Krishna's very wonderful pastimes. We're so fortunate to have this association. Thank you, Maharaj, for uplifting our consciousness with this story and of Aghasura and Krishna's wonderful protection of his devotees. And by your blessings here, we all also feel that protection. We would like to thank Vibhaji for, she just left, right there, for hosting this very wonderful program at her home. This is her brand new home. She spent, I think, nearly a year remodeling. And now finally she's prepared everything, and she's been wanting to call Maharaj since a long time, and everything ready, and she prepared everything so nicely. Thank you for inviting all of us in your home. Yes, and in a few minutes we will have a small artik where Srimad Bhagavatam will be installed in the home. So Maharaj has kindly agreed to do this installation, yes, there on that side. And before we do that, Vibhaji would like to say a few words.
I like to say thank you, Gopalji. He's the one, he connected me with the Krishna. I am from Sardar family, so I did not know much about the Krishna. So more I know, more I'm getting connected. And thank you to be here. And thank you very much. And look at how many people got connected and how many people like you and love you. And please keep coming. And Gopalji also, and Devi ji. So she's downstairs and she always teaches the kids, so they are great. And thank you everyone for coming. And please have a prasad. And abhi ye aap sabko nachayenge. ये बहुत अच्छा कृष्णा कृष्णा करके मस्त हो जाते हैं, देखने वाले होते हैं.
Yes, so we'll all stand up for Artik. And after Artik, there's prasadam for devotees.